Hi, welcome to the Dare Act Conversation series powered by the Grey Matter. Our guest joining today is Aruna Chawla. She is a lawyer turned entrepreneur and founder of the company Salad Ultra Thin Condoms. Aruna is also a passionate buyer psychologist and conversion strategist in the e commerce space. Before we invite our guest, just wanted to let you all know that unlike our usual Dare Act chats, this conversation is going to be slightly different as we interview Aruna in an audio format. So allow me to now invite Aruna Chawla. Hey Aruna.
Hey, how are you? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Welcome to Dare Act, and we hope you're as excited as we are to host you today.
Super, super excited. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. So my first question to you, Aruna, is that why did you choose to study law, and was selecting Christ University for your legal education an intentional choice?
Um, so I had decided to read law back when I was in the sixth grade. I'm the eldest in the family, and that just seemed like the perfect choice for me. And that's how I just continue to preparing myself and my mindset and my family for the idea that I'm going to pursue a legal career in the long run. I'm a first gen lawyer. And the problem with that situation was that there's only so much you know at that time, right? If you have
Mm.
elder brothers or sisters, it's different, and you can go to them for guidance. In my case, there was nobody here, and I mean, that just like made me choose law. I loved the entire idea of public speaking, of solving problems, of at least the ideal Aruna wanted to build huge impact in the world and change it for the better. So that's why chosen to study law. Christ was an intentional decision, and people do find it counterintuitive when I say that. I got a really good rank with my CLAT score, but my idea was not to live in a hostel for 5 long years. My idea was, these are the years where I'm going to really grow as a person. If I am going out of the house, I might as well, uh, get myself an apartment where I can learn how to grow up, cook, budget, etc. And at the same time, be in a cosmopolitan city. Bangalore has an amazing vibe, the kind of lifestyle there. I think that really taught me a lot, and I'm so grateful for the time I spent there, not just in college, but also in the city. And Christ is a lot of people who know about Christ think that it's super strict, which is true, but I think it just works out really well for a profession like ours because they have insanely good resources, the library, access, everything. And at the same time, because it's a university, you have the opportunity to interact with multiple different departments. So there's a lot of cross intersection of ideas, of thought processes, and I think that really shapes the work a lawyer potentially does in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. Speaking about Christ, tell us about the highs and lows of your college life.
I had super typical highs in the college life with, I got really good marks. I would top at least in the first 2 years. I love studying. I love making notes. Uh, I, I, I mean, I'm one of those people who's always the teacher's pet. I love learning new things, and law school was great for me that from that perspective because every day there was something new to learn, and it's so vast. You can never get enough, right? The lows
Yeah.
were, and I faced these only when I started my internships, that I did not enjoy going to courts. I didn't enjoy the lifestyle of lawyers generally. The future looked super bleak for me. A lot of people enjoyed the idea of, being in that hustle culture. I'm not one of those. I've always wanted a super chill life. That does not mean I don't enjoy working, but I don't like the stress of not being able to give adequate time to my family, to myself, to my friends, and just, always working. And that's quite the norm of what the legal lifestyle has become today. It's very rare that whether in at least in the typical legal culture where, you'd find law firms with healthy work-life balances. That's just not the case, right? And I knew I was not ready to take that on. So that was quite disastrous for me because in sort of like in third year, I realized, I'm not cut for this. This is what I prepared for all my life. But when I really got on ground, I've realized that this is not my scene at all, but this is not even the right time for me to drop out, right? Because
Yeah.
I'd already spent 2 years and I had a chat with my parents about dropping out. And they kind of convinced me to, Achal, at least get a degree. Then when you come back, we'll see what you want to do,
Hmm.
etc. I think that idea was that let her complete it and then she'll anyway feel okay about her decision and continue being in the legal career. And but I took their recommendation by the word and said, okay, I only need passing marks now. So the second, like fourth semester, I had the batch highest marks. Fifth semester, I had just barely passing marks. And my teachers called me, my dean spoke to me about what's going wrong, what's happened to you. You're a star student. You never miss college. You're always, your assignments are always on, used to always be on time, and now it feels like you're barely putting in any effort. Is everything okay? And I had a long chat with them that I don't want to be in this anymore. So I'm just going to use this opportunity to learn as much as I can, but focus more on like learning how to think. So
Fantastic.
that's what my college life was. And post that, just the freedom of knowing that, I don't have the pressure of becoming a lawyer meant that I could just say yes to any and every opportunity that came my way. And most opportunities failed. But what's great is that I tried so many things that by the time I was done with college, I had clarity on the kind of life I wanted to build for myself.
That's fantastic. So basically, by third year, you were pretty clear that law was not something you saw yourself doing for the rest of your life. Tell us,
Yeah,
what did you do next in terms of exploring suitable career options which kind of fit your personality and,
right.
were looked like perspectives? Yeah,
So back in
prospects.
college, like I knew I didn't want the typical legal life, but I also didn't know what other than law. So I kind of focused within that sphere itself. At that time, I was working with strategic advocacy for human rights. I started it off as an internship and then went on to continue working with them for almost 2 years. This was, a part-time, fully remote opportunity, and that was amazing because, at that time I really learned what, working from home or the digital nomad life means. And I learned a lot because I was already working with international lawyers on key policy issues. And that was quite great, but like I didn't see a lot of profit in a career that way. Unfortunately, human rights, the social impact still has minimum financial growth opportunities. At least I didn't know of any at that time. And I was clear that I want something that is financially lucrative as well. One thing I've always loved is art and fashion, and I started exploring intersections of law with these industries. Unfortunately, at that time, there was nothing really happening in India. There was this LLM course at Fordham Law um, on fashion law, and I mean, at that time, I just started spending time, researching, reading blogs, looking at news, etc. And I was super active on LinkedIn all through this time. I have a very student first mindset. So I keep sharing things that I learn. And that helped me connect with people from across the world. And sim through this, I got in touch with Mr. Debotham Bose. He is India's first art and philanthropy lawyer. So I ended up, learning from him a lot and, engaging with him on certain things that he was working on, which is great, right? Because those opportunities led me to a stint with UNESCO right out of law school. I won a fellowship in art rights. I was the only and the youngest lawyer there, focusing on rights of artists and the legal concerns surrounding them. And I continued this work for almost 2 years. And independently, back in India, hosted workshops for creative professionals on art law, everything from contracts, intellectual property, securing your business interests as a freelancer. In 2020 January, a book I co-authored called The Smart Artist was released by India Art Fair and Art Fair Studios. So I mean, there was really cool stuff happening. It was profitable as well. And I had created by then a niche for myself within the legal field itself.
Brilliant. And I think it's what's the takeaway from here is that, even if you're unsure in those 5 years, don't feel scared and just like be on a lookout on and try to figure out what is it that you really want to do. And it's really amazing how you tried your hands on everything, be it legal or non-legal. And something as
Yeah.
niche as, fashion law, which I still don't know what it means, but there is something called art law and fashion law, which kind
Yeah.
of rings a bell that, perhaps the next thing we should do is search what it means. And it's a great way to stay aware and updated on what's happening around. So, very well done. Thank you so much for sharing that. Um, 2020 was a very interesting year for you, Arana. You were introduced to the field of biopsychology. Why don't you tell us a little bit about this field? How did you discover it? And in what ways has it helped you professionally?
So I think for me, 2020 has been the year where everything I've ever worked for has just come together. 2020 has been the year of serendipity for me. And it's been amazing because I feel like I've found my place in the world. I found something I'm super passionate about and I love doing. And that, personally has led me to be more confident and more secure in who I am and what I want to do. Buyer psychology or consumer psychology is the study of how shoppers make purchase decisions. And this happened because I love online shopping. It's no jokes. It wasn't that, I was looking for something to study. It was just, I enjoy online shopping so much. I'm from a business class family. So, we've always had dinner table conversations have been around businesses, how to grow the business, what's working, what's not working. So I've always had that sort of mindset or mental models in terms of thinking. And I know that that showed when I was able to monetize my interest in art and fashion law via workshops as well. But
Hmm.
just really getting into the deep of how people are making shopping decisions, especially online, was amazing because once I found that I read up a couple of articles over the weekend, and that was a break time for me, like because the legal work I was doing was great, but it was so stressful and I never enjoyed it. I wasn't super passionate about it. This was my downtime and chilling time where I just read a couple of articles and I realized that, what, I am meant for this. This is what I'm going to be amazing at. And then I went on again, like I said that I have a student first mindset. I kept looking for resources, sharing ideas or whatever I'm learning on my LinkedIn, connecting insights. That led to building of a whole new network. I got a scholarship from a US-based conversion optimization agency. They're one of the world's best. Um, and that because through via that scholarship I kept sharing or everything I was learning, and just that led to my network exploring. I got amazing opportunities with an edtech brand in India called Harappa Education, um, a marketing agency based in the US, which I still continue working with today, and also a lot of independent clients who wanted me to implement the insights I had, right? So I did not at that time have any work experience, but I was sharing my insights and my learnings constantly. And I think that really struck a chord because I was learning on the go and I was sharing whatever I'm learning. Businesses would start reaching out to me to help them work on their marketing and brand building strategy, and especially because I was so focused on just e-commerce, so focused on just D2C brands, that really helped. Because, if I was to say that I can, at this time already, 4 months, 5 months into learning about something new, do every damn thing under the marketing universe, I don't think it would have worked really well. But because I was so focused on one aspect, on that one
Hmm.
small slice of cake, I got that left, right, and center.
Fantastic. So it's like you kind of figured your niche, you ensured you were constantly engaging on the platform around your niche, and which kind of indirectly, made you the expert. That was the first impression, your connections got. And speaking of LinkedIn, like you mentioned, you've been actively engaging on the platform since college days, and it has given you great work references and connections. I don't know, do you have any words of wisdom for those who may be hesitant to put themselves out there and, then do business development? And this specifically applies to, lawyers, because we've seen most of the time the lawyer personality is not somebody, who would go out there and be like, this is what I do and this is who I am. Would you have any words of wisdom for us?
So I had a conversation with somebody just last week about this, about what is the difference between a student mindset and a salesperson mindset. I think the world is waiting for people who know they're really good at something but are always curious to learn. If you have a student first mindset, you are simply sharing what you're learning and you're sharing your insights. They could potentially be wrong, or you could potentially go on to have deeper conversations or deeper insights and then share them. But I think what works really well is if you share on the go. So it's as simple as, um, taking time out to constantly upgrade your skills and tell the world about it by way of introducing them to those skills. It's more of how do I get other people to learn with me? That really
Fabulous.
helps, and especially for lawyers, because as per Bar Council of India rules, I will still include myself in the lawyer category. We can't really sell our services of, whether it's a legal consultancy or legal help. You can still continue to be establish yourself as a thought leader or expert. Having something as simple as a Calendly link on your LinkedIn or your Instagram, wherever, like whatever platform works best for you. I think it's more about also, knowing that one platform should work really well for you depending on your personality. LinkedIn worked great because I hate having my photographs anywhere or my videos anywhere. I like the written textual interaction a lot more. So LinkedIn worked really well for me that way, and I had a Calendly link attached to it, which meant that my time for work would constantly be blocked for conversations, for onboarding calls, and instead of having to push for sales, I would get people who were interested in working with me because they'd already seen my work. They already trusted what I was talking about. I think especially for lawyers, you want to be seen as an expert. That's just the way it should be, right? So getting clear
Absolutely.
on what you're learning, and at the same time identifying two or three quick sales programs, so to say. So, maybe a retainer program or maybe two or three services that are just going to be no-brainers, and having them in an easy to access manner would really help potential customers.
Fantastic. What a nice and doable thing, actually, Aruna.
Yeah,
And I think anybody and everybody can do it.
yeah.
Nothing fancy at all. So thank you so much for sharing that. You seem to be somebody who's curious, attentive, observant, and clearly an action taker. With your experience and expertise, including the e-commerce space, you could have picked up any flourishing retail industry for your business, and yet you chose the condom industry, which has always been an extremely challenging market to deal with, especially in India. Why and what led you to venture into this space?
I think, the idea is that because it's extremely challenging, I was the right person to do it. It was more of that counter intuition. And I'll tell you why. Um,
Hmm.
Traditionally, I think marketing has become super copy paste, and I say this from the perspective of somebody who does not come from, a formal education in marketing. I've learned it on the go. I've learned what works, what doesn't work by actual implementation and experimentation. Because I'm super interested in, how people are making purchase decisions. Studying different industries is just part of how I upscale and become good at what I do, right? I think the intimate health and wellness industry has so much potential in the e-commerce space, but it's not been tapped into because it is, like you said, very challenging market to deal with, especially in India because, we also have cultural taboos surrounding it. We also have a lot of cultural barriers, access challenges, and like lawyers' perspective, obscenity clauses to deal with, from marketing idea. Now, the idea is for me to use my interest and my passion for buyer psychology and creating wonderful shopping experiences online uh, for an industry that other people don't really look into. So, this is actually a space of very low competition for me. There are obviously a lot of other opportunities that I know have a lot of potential, but they also. Hello?
Yeah.
Hey, okay. Sorry. Um, I'm saying like a lot of other industries that have lots of potential also have a lot of competition in them because they're comparatively easy to get into, right? Because you have a little copy paste scenario there. For the condom industry, or just the big picture intimate health and wellness industry, there are so many concerns that as a buyer psychologist slash marketer, I am the right resource to build a brand like this. I work with other intimate health and wellness brands as well across the world, but for India, I thought the like condoms was a great product to start with, because it's not run of the mill at all. It's not a product that you see innovations happening in every other day, or new brands launching every other day. And at the same time, there's also the concern of this being an essential medical commodity. So most people I speak to don't know about this, and I learned about this during my research, that condoms are regulated by the Department of Pharmaceuticals, and there's a price ceiling set on them. So a brand or a business cannot sell them for more than 9.15 rupees as per the current budget, regardless of what it costs you to make them. Other competitor brands that sell for more have stays that they've gotten for just their brands against the ceiling, but that matter is sub judice, right? So this is a super, super interesting product for me to deal with from both these perspectives. And I thought this was a great opportunity for me to really implement everything I've learned over the last couple of months, the work I'm doing with other brands, into something I can make a lot of difference in, and at the same time enable the creation of a safe space, to access intimate health and wellness products.
Wow, that's extremely fascinating. Aruna, tell us, what is the objective behind your brand Salad?
Um, this is true for anybody. If you go to a pharmacist, whether you're a man or a woman, you cannot spend 30 minutes there looking at different brands or varieties, educate yourself on what each one of them can do for you, and then get one home. It's not like a Chroma store where, you're going to buy your phone. And that's so surprising because this goes in the most intimate health and intimate part of our body. With Salad, the idea is to provide a comfortable, seamless online shopping experience without the shame or the taboo. And the deal is that we need to impart a lot of education about the product, the right way to use it, why to use it at all. Our target audience is super small. As per a National Family Planning survey, only 5.8% of the total population uses condoms. I have
Wow.
certain concerns with the statistical data, but even if I look at other surveys that say the NCBI did, only 45% of India's menstruating women use any form of contraception, which means condoms, IUDs, the pills, the pull-out anything, right?
Yeah.
So our target audience is so damn small, but our biggest opportunity is the group that uses no form of contraception. Um,
Hmm.
and I think that's key for us. The knowledge of these aspects is key for us because we're not just trying to take away a lion's share from existing brands. We're also trying to educate the masses about why it's a good idea to practice safe sex. If you are going to practice sex, my dears, you might as well be safe. So that's our key. And I think like it's a lot of social good that we can potentially do for our country because, we are seeing groups of people going up, moving upwards in terms of financial opportunities, work opportunities, etc. And the ability to take control of your body when you choose to have a child, when you choose to not have a child, or even delay it, or consider it not done at all, is so so relevant, especially for women, because that's how we can give adequate time to our careers. That's how we can give adequate time to what we want when we want, right?
Yeah.
And condoms are a great product that way because they're not invasive, they don't alter your hormonal structure, and they're so easy to access. You don't have to go to a doctor to get them. There's not going to be any side effects of condoms that way. So I think like I feel like this is really early. I will be very honest. I think a brand like Salad is super early in the market, but I think we're in a really good space where we have the opportunity to build that kind of vision and our mission.
Yeah, very well said, Aruna. And I also understand that a certain percentage of the sales is kept for spreading awareness and, kind of breaking the taboo behind, the so-called illiteracy that still prevails in our country around sexuality and otherwise, right?
Absolutely. So we've created a business model where we can be a social good business along with being profitable. 15% of our profits are committed to sex ed in the country, and our idea is to ensure that culturally affirmative sex ed is provided. I know that, like sitting here on an Instagram chat, we can easily say that we have access to all information, but we're super privileged to be able to say that, right?
Yeah.
And the challenge is that the sex ed that we've been receiving via Instagram, via social media in general, is Western influence. We may not be in a country where that kind of sex ed will work, So say explore your body, try different things. It's not going to work in a country where most people don't even have privacy in their rooms to themselves. So I think it's super relevant for sex ed in the country to be contextual, to be culturally affirmative and conscious of the society we live in, because we don't want to cause an uproar that way. Our idea is for us to be able to understand where we are, what we're doing, and ensure that people are safe around us at the same time.
Well, it's clearly extreme. This is an insightful conversation for me, I must say, and I think it's very important to do these conversations around such topics once in a while, because we need to progress, right? And we may have come to the 21st century, and yes, there is feminism, and there is a lot of change that has happened in the couple of years, but I think the stigma still prevails. And thank you so much for daring to do this, and entering a market which is male dominated primarily. And yeah, kudos to you, Aruna.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank you.
so, there are only a handful of well-established brands dominating the condom market. How is your company Salad different from the rest?
So, just like, this is what I always say. I love e-commerce because it allows you to start off businesses with smaller investments and still reach out to a wide audience, right? With Salad, because we're not, I mean, it's 100% bootstrapped business. And at 26, if I'm able to do that, and to be honest, a business like Salad needs a lot more investment. But I'm sure other people can start off businesses from the comforts of their home with very little initial upfront capital. And I will encourage everybody to, consider doing that, even if it's as a side hustle. You should always consider, how to divest investments in a way that you have multiple sources of income. Having said that, the difference in Salad is being a small business one works really well in our favor, because then, we're being able to focus on being like, we are as a brand focused on health and wellness instead of pleasure. So, you're not going to find any flavored condoms in any of the ranges that come out in the future. No dotted, no ribbed, nothing. Our idea is simply that our condoms should be of a great quality. They should feel great. It shouldn't be a barrier of any sort. And our ultra thins are so damn thin that you'll barely get to feel them. And there's a very special rationale behind it. Uh, Dominant brands, or any brand for that matter, market condoms towards the men. And the idea is that they are pleasure climax focused, So you'll always have ideas of mutual pleasure, last longer, etc., etc. Which essentially means that if the man does not find it pleasurable, they can choose not to use the condom at all, right? I think, like, in general, big picture messaging needs to change for this to work, for, like, condoms to be more adopted easily towards being good for your body, good for, safe sex practices. And that's the angle that we're focusing on. Our idea is for people to practice safe sex, just like, how you would take your vitamins and minerals every day. Protected sex is going to be just good health for both partners. We're also vegan friendly, which means our condoms do not use any animal byproducts. I have to say, this is not a new invention. In any kind of innovations in the health and wellness industry has to be regulated and approved by the health ministry before R&D starts. And as a small business, we don't have that kind of capital to be able to do that, right? But we are like, we're ultra thin, we're completely vegan. We're following a lot of eco-conscious business practices. And because we're 100% D2C, our patrons and our audience can get them at the comfort of their home without having to go out, without having to worry about if it's a good product or not. And of course, we have all the requisite national and international health certifications. And I know
Wow.
that, this is, yeah, go on. Okay.
Yeah, you just, sorry, if you want to complete something, please go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, so I want to say that like ideas are aplenty. A lot of us have ideas, and I'm saying this more from a business entrepreneur perspective. If the idea or message does not land, then no matter how good it is on paper, it's not going to make a difference. In our case, we know our messaging landed really well. Our website's still not launched, but our pre-orders were sold out within 24 hours using a type form. It's been 100% organic growth. We've spread via word of mouth. And our idea wasn't to, like we knew we'd get really good response, but just the fact that we've got this kind of response within 30 days of a soft launch means that we are solving a very real problem. Initial reviews of the product itself have been phenomenal. And that's led to, word of mouth. I'm constantly handling DMs on our Instagram about where they can buy the product from, and we just don't have stock anymore.
This is brilliant. And you when you mentioned about the messaging and how what is Salad's messaging versus the messaging of the other dominating brands in the market,
Yeah.
it just occurred to me, there are so many brands advertising on TV almost on an every second basis, and how strategically they put their message forward, which directly hits your subconscious beliefs you may not be even
Yeah.
aware of. I mean,
Yeah.
I may sound as naive as, I don't know, a child, but it never struck to me that, why would they advertise condoms, with the messaging that it's for pleasure and climax centric, and how they've always focused on, male pleasure. And you saying that today was just like an aha moment. And I was like, oh, wow, I've known this all this while, but it's never occurred to me why, the messaging cannot be around health and, wellness. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for, highlighting that for me specifically, a great light bulb moment.
I
um,
think that's the idea, right? Like having the kind of consumer psychology background and experience that I have makes the world of a difference, because I know I bring something super unique to the table. Not just for like Salad, but also for the other brands that I work with. When you have this
yeah.
idea of how are people really making purchase decisions, what is stopping them, what is causing friction, and how can, as a business, we remove or at least minimize that friction? What is that aha moment we can give to them and make them, feel like I have to shell out money for this product. There is no way I want to live without it. That builds radical differentiation for your business. So, then in cases like those, you don't have to focus on push marketing at all, because your
Mm.
product, your brand strategy, everything is so well aligned together that it automatically attracts people. So for us, say real estate, our most important real estate has been the packaging itself. And condom brands or condom products itself have such a typical kind of packaging, except for Durex, I have to say. But all other brands, you will see a man and a woman in in an almost pornographic pose, with the woman in scantily clad lingerie. Durex is plain, but they're not really doing anything with it. For our branding, and if there's anybody listening, you can just visit our Instagram to see how we've done the packaging itself. We've been really smart and 21st century focused. There's a QR code that leads you directly to an ingredients page and does not fill up the packaging, which, by the way, no other brand does. If you pick up any brand of condoms, none of them have ingredients mentioned, so you don't really know what's going on inside the most intimate part of your body. Our packaging is super attractive. It looks like a video game, so to say. And one of the coolest reviews I had from a patron was that, if I leave it on the bedside, I know that nobody is really going to come and pick it up, and I don't have to be scared because it looks so cool. It just adds to the whole vibe of my
Yeah.
room. So I think that those are really important things for, any business in today's world to consider.
Absolutely. And even packaging for that matter, that you've taken care of the subtle nuances. As something as simple as you can leave it wherever you want to leave it without thinking that, if somebody comes in your absence, what is the first impression they'll have of you? So yeah,
Absolutely.
clearly very, very thought after. Aruna, being a young woman entrepreneur in this challenging industry indeed is a daring step, and you must have definitely overcome a great number of challenges. It'll be great if you could share your biggest struggles, you've experienced in establishing your organization.
So when I started working on this, the idea of salad, it was last year sometime. I mean, like about June, July last year, and I was 25 at that time. So when I started reach out to manufacturers, first they didn't even consider me because you're too young to. We don't even want to talk to you. If somebody would take the conversation forward and didn't kind of figure out my age, their first question would be, why is your father or husband not talking to us? We don't want to deal with you.
Mm.
So, there was a lot of pushback from manufacturers themselves there. I haven't found a single woman condom manufacturer in the country till now. And being younger, and I mean, like even at 26, you're not that old, right? Being young and being a woman just means that people are not going to take you seriously, and that's so unfortunate. There were some manufacturers, who were like, okay, yeah, we're getting money, let's just go ahead and get this client. But there would be a lot of um, hard to put it any other way, but cheap treatment, where they
Mm.
would think it's okay to say whatever because it's a woman and she's working in she's wanting to build a condom brand, so she's going to be open for sex generally. So I think those are challenges. It was supremely hard. I think the biggest Goliath that as a brand or as a business that we've had to fight is getting to a manufacturer who will treat us with respect and fairness, this regardless of our age or gender.
Wow. And did it, when you had such experiences, did they affect you, like, or were you pretty sorted from the beginning that, this is how the market is going to be and I'm not going to react no matter what? Like, did you have to work towards it, or was it something you went in already knowing?
I think I went in already knowing, but it is a work in progress. You can know that you're not going to be treated well, but it can still affect you negatively. So obviously, I hate that. I hate, having to listen to such things or having that kind of trolling. And we still face that, with Salad's DM because it's at this moment, at least, Salad is such a personal brand-led business. People associate salad with a girl called Aruna or a woman called Aruna, right? Even if they've not seen my face at all. And that's
Mm.
also been intentional, hiding all my images from social media everywhere. And so, that means that, our DMs they feel like our DMs are just open to dick pics or solicitation, etc. And that is not the idea, right? That's not what we
Yeah.
want to do at all. So of course, it impacts you negatively, but just knowing that, there is a degree of separation where you've done adequately to ensure your personal safety and security is not going to be harmed. I think those things really help, and at the same time, knowing that what you're doing is supremely impactful. So this is not a business that you can say anyone else could have done better, or it's fine if I don't do this business because I mean, like, let's not forget, I already have a flourishing career as a buyer psychologist. I already work with a number of brands. So for me, this has been a truly, truly passion project. I am an accidental entrepreneur in that sense, where I
Yeah.
found an opportunity and didn't want to let it go. So just having that kind of clarity and objectivity is supremely helpful in, at least that's the mental model I use.
Very interesting. And what have you learned about yourself in this entrepreneurial journey thus far?
Um, I am an obsessive overthinker. If I have something in mind, I want to get up and not sleep and get it done. And that's insane because, maintaining that kind of work-life balance is supremely important, especially because in today, like since last year, all of us are just always at home, right? At
Yeah.
least the ones who have the privilege, and I'm super conscious of that privilege. But I've had the opportunity to work 24/7, and that's definitely not healthy. So, getting to that work-life balance is quite challenging for me. And I also know that I thrive really well in remote teams. So for Salad, I wouldn't want a large team or an office. I love working with youngsters. They're so talented. They have so many cool ideas, and they're so much more efficient. I don't care if somebody works for, 2 hours a day and gets work done, versus somebody who's, has to work for 8 hours a day. And I think the online world gives us that opportunity to hire experts from across and let give them the flexibility of work and focus on results rather than monitoring them constantly because we don't really need that, right? And I know I work really well, so knowing that, that's the way I'm building my team for Salad itself further so that I can, have time back on my hands and not have to work on the daily admin work. But just having that kind of clarity in terms of how I like to work, what kind of things can overwhelm me, or where would I need a break, or how do I intentionally build that balance has been supremely helpful for me in the last 1 year.
Would you have any advice for law students and lawyers, unsure about the law and not sure what they want to do in their career going forward? Any piece of advice?
Yeah, sure. I think this is not just for people who are unsure, but also for, those who want to experiment. And I love the idea of micro experiments. So if you want to say change your career, don't quit your job and start looking for new opportunities. It's not going to make any sense. You're not going to be financially stable at all if you do that. Instead, a better thing to do is maybe, get, say, one freelance client to consider if you could work with them or not, or maybe commit to a 2 hour 4 hour internship over a week, spread over the week. So that's very little investment, but you're going to get a quick idea into whether you even like that or not. For law students, especially, I think what I loved about my legal degree is learning how to think, or learning how to, build strategies in my mind, because it's not just the law you read, right? It's also, if you are focused on, actually being a really good lawyer, you're going to learn a lot of strategy work. You're going to learn a lot of uh, intrapersonal skills, where you're handling people, you're handling clients, you're handling different kinds of judges, etc. And those things are so relevant for anybody in any field. And I have to give back everything that I am today to the legal education I've received. And that's super relevant. So, if you don't even want to be a traditional lawyer, there are so many other opportunities. You can just focus on learning uh, how work on your mental models, how do you think, etc. And keep doing those micro experiments. Back in college, when, I'd kind of decided I don't want to go into the legal career, but had no idea what to do, I did this course on Italian wines. And this was hosted by the embassy in Bangalore itself. And this was over a weekend. And I loved it so much. It was just so much fun. And I went on, to do a longer year-long course. And I worked for a couple of months with Brinco Sales. And they're India's largest distributors of wines in the country. And they produce a lot of these other beers as well. So Hopper is a brand of theirs. And I did pure legal work for them. So, all kinds of real estate management, applications, alcohol laws, and use these insights to build their marketing strategy. So, it was supremely cool. And I mean, I knew that long term it may not be the most profitable venture for me, but that was a stepping stone for me to get into pure entrepreneurship as well, right? So I think, like, it's okay to take those small steps. Jumping from 0 to 180 is going to be super difficult if you want to change your career, but jumping from 0 to 10 and then take that 10 to 20 is going to be much easier. So look. So I think just having that kind of curiosity and smaller commitments really works when you want to switch careers, or you're looking to grow into a different field altogether.
Well, that's indeed it's a great advice. Thank you so much, Aruna, for being so candid with us today. It's been an extremely insightful conversation, and there's definitely so much to learn from you. So thank you once again and thank you for agreeing to be a part of Dare Act, and hope you had a good time with us.
Thanks so much, Shreya. I loved it. Thanks so much for giving me this space and opportunity.
Brilliant, and we wish you all the very best, and we wish Salad all the very best in their future endeavors. And I hope your website opens up for more orders super soon, so we all get to explore what Solid Salad has to offer.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Thank you everyone for watching. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye.